Deal. He says that if someone sets him free, he'll ask the boss to spare that person's life. Since no one says a word, Ji-hoon figures the beastfolk might not fully get what the old man said, but the message must have already hit their hearts in fear and anger. One of the beastfolk finally speaks up, sensing that something feels off. Ji-hoon also feels the same eerie vibe and looks at Rhea. She's totally drowned in guilt, as if she just broke someone's favorite phone. She quietly mutters that it's all her fault, and because of her, their village Warren is about to be destroyed. Ji-hoon realizes that if things keep going this way, the beastfolk could be wiped out. Meanwhile, the old man keeps laughing while staring at the bulky beastman and mocks him, asking if he doesn't want to untie these ropes. No one moves. Ji-hoon just stares, thinking that if nothing is done, Warren will end up becoming the bandit group's base. Without wasting time, he starts walking forward. He knows he can't let that happen. As the old man shouts again, asking if everyone wants to die without untying him, Ji-hoon continues moving. He's already decided. Warren will be the stronghold for the monster faction he plans to build soon. When Ji-hoon finally stops in front of the man grins and says he's lucky to have met him. He believes once Ji-hoon frees him, he'll be safe. The man quickly tells Ji-hoon to translate his words to the demons, assuming they're on the same side. But without hesitation, Ji-hoon punches the old man straight in the face. He knows this is his base now, and the people here are his comrades. As the old man crashes to the ground, everyone stares in shock. The old man tries to get up while Ji-hoon stands firm, calmly saying that he doesn't need to hear any more nonsense. It's time to fight. As Ji-hoon declares that they're going to protect Warren together, Rhea looks shocked, but the big beast folk stays calm and says it's impossible, asking Ji-hoon to just take a proper look around. He adds that the reason they built the village behind Stone Mountain and live in hiding is because they're weak. He points out that most of the villagers are women and children, people who've never really fought before, let alone gone up against humans. Basically, it's not an army, it's a beast to care. Just then, the village chief walks into the crowd, while laughing, grabbing everyone's attention. Hearing his laugh, Rhea turns to look at him, confused. The village chief keeps walking toward them, saying, Ji-hoon's dreams sure are bold. As Rieseldrake flies through the air and heads toward Ji-hoon, the village chief says that since everyone is here, he'll say it again. Starting today, Ji-hoon is the new village chief of the beastfolk, the one who will lead Warren. Meanwhile, the bandits arrive near the village. One of them shows Screamspike the mountains, and says there's a village behind Stone Mountain. Hearing that, Screamspike grins, saying they never imagined there would be something hidden there, and now that they know, it's basically a free upgrade. He announces that they'll take over the place and turn it into the hideout of the Screamspike band. With a loud yell, he tells his army to charge at the mountain, and says it's time for a massacre. Back in the village, the big beastfolk talks to Ji-hoon, and reveals that the bandit group has around 200 members. In comparison, Warren's entire strength is just 3 bull beastfolk, including himself, 2 deer beastfolk, 5 sheep beastfolk, 1 fox beastfolk, Rhea, and 1 rabbit beastfolk. That brings the total to only 112. As he says that, he looks at Ji-hoon, and asks if there's any chance of winning. Ji-hoon begins thinking, feeling like he's just been handed a math problem without a calculator. He knows they'll be fighting twice as many enemies, and this isn't some friendly neighborhood pillow fight. But then he reminds himself, it's not just about numbers. What matters in games are stats, like rank and level. He remembers how Rhea was ambushed but still managed to KO a bandit in 1 hit. He figures that a 3-to-1 fight would be tough for her, but 2-to-1? She could probably win that. Ji-hoon recalls the bull saying that the beastfolk have never fought before, which means there's a chance for beastification. It's like holding an untouched lottery ticket. Who knows what power might be hiding? He clenches his fist, thinking that if everyone fought like Rhea, they could win despite being outnumbered. He glances at the strong beastfolk and politely calls him Bull Sir. In response, the beastfolk introduces himself as Tower Brimlack. Ji-hoon nods and calls him Tower, then asks how strong Rhea really is in Warren. Tor Brimlack thinks for a moment before saying that if Ji-hoon is asking about strength, then he'll need to consider it carefully. Ji-hoon gets excited, realizing this must be a starter mission for the monster faction. He knows the game wouldn't throw them into an impossible fight, so their strength might be more than what the bandits expect. Soon after, Tor Brimlack admits that Rhea is the strongest warrior in all of Warren. Ji-hoon is left surprised and confused. Tor Brimlack adds that even if the entire village teamed up, they wouldn't stand a chance against Rhea and wouldn't be able to beat her. Hearing that, Ji-hoon comes to a simple but brutal conclusion. If everyone fought Rhea, they'd still lose, which means everyone else is completely useless. Wondering if he is living in a village of side characters. Rhea tells him near the cave entrance that the humans will probably arrive around sunset. Ji-hoon asks how she knows that. Rhea points to the guy tied to a tree trunk, his face swollen like a dumpling, and explains that she simply asked him. Ji-hoon mutters that this is exactly what he expects from Warren's greatest warrior. She doesn't ask politely, she asks with punch. He remembers that the bandits mentioned looking for something their boss had lost, and asks Rhea if she has any idea what it could be. Rhea guesses it might be the human boss's personal item, maybe a treasure passed down by beastfolk or some rare mineral hidden in Warren. She then says that this is just a village where beastfolk who lost their homes have gathered, and there's no way they have anything humans would actually covet. Ji-hoon mutters that maybe the humans just need an excuse, thinking it feels like someone yelling, "Lost my sock, let's raid a village." Just then Tower walks over and addresses Ji-hoon as the new village chief, asking what they should do since everyone is waiting. Ji-hoon starts thinking seriously. He realizes that to overcome their lack of numbers, individual strength is the key. Rhea is the strongest in Warren, and the 111 other beastfolk couldn't defeat her even together. But he wonders if Rhea can really take on 111 humans alone. He thinks that either Rhea is crazy strong or rabbits are secretly gym freaks. He honestly can't tell which. He wishes he could see everyone's stats like in a game to understand their chances better. Then it suddenly hits him. He remembers that he has the Ruler's Eye, a passive skill that allows him to check the stats of monsters and items, and realizes he basically has a built-in cheat code. Ji-hoon tries to figure out how to use his skill again. He thinks that in video games you usually just say status out loud and the stat window pops up. Easy peasy like ordering instant noodles. So, thinking it's worth a shot, he raises his hand a little and shouts, "Sandwich!" Nothing happens. Just awkward silence. The kind where even the wind feels embarrassed. Ji-hoon stands there, stunned, thinking that normally the stat window is supposed to open when you do this, and the inventory too if you say it. Then out of nowhere, a system window suddenly opens. His inventory. Seeing it appear, he was surprised that it actually worked, and yeah, just as he expected, it was completely empty. As he stares at the empty screen, his eyes catch the title at the top, Abyss Slot. He reads it again, wondering if it's short for Abyss Slot. He figures that since he's now part of the monster faction, even the inventory has a name to match. Abyss Storage. Just then, he gets hit with a realization. Things had been happening non-stop since he escaped the palace, and in the chaos he had completely forgotten about something important. He remembers the sword he got back in the kingdom. Frustrated, he mutters to himself, thinking that if the building hadn't collapsed like that, he wouldn't be in this mess. He wonders if he left the sword behind in the middle of the kingdom, then shakes his head, thinking that he must have stored it in the inventory, or at least he hopes so. Either way, he knows he can't go back to get it, so even if it's regrettable, there's nothing he can do right now. Still confused, he wonders why the stats window didn't open. Maybe there's another way to trigger it. So far, Ji-hoon has activated 4 passive skills. The first is Ruler's Eye, which allows him to check the stats of monsters and items. The second is Communication, Monster, which lets him talk to monsters. The third is Likeable Monster, which oddly makes monsters like him for no clear reason, and the fourth is Physical Monster, which boosts his physical abilities beyond human limits. Except for Ruler's Eye, the other 3 passive skills seem to stay active ever since they first kicked in. While Ji-hoon is deep in thought, Rhea suddenly snaps at him, yelling that he needs to stop standing around just thinking. She says the enemies are still coming and something has to be done quickly. Ji-hoon blinks, caught off guard like someone who got hit by a pop quiz they didn't study for. But then Rhea's tone changes. All the anger melts away and she says softly that this all happened because of her. She asks him to give her some instructions, saying she wants to protect Warren and the villagers. Ji-hoon looks at her and thinks she's right. There's no time to sit here acting like a loading screen. He tells himself there's no need to obsess over opening the stats window anymore. Just as he thinks that, a target circle appears on Rhea's face and a system message pops up. Target designation complete using Ruler's Eye. Her stats begin to display. Ji-hoon quickly realizes something. Inventory is a system function meant to show his items, so it opened just by thinking about it? But Ruler's Eye is a passive skill, meant to check the stats of monsters or people. So to activate it, he needs to designate a target and focus on checking their stats. When he thinks about it, it's actually simple. This is probably why it's called Ruler's Eye. Meanwhile, the system finishes loading Rhea's stats and displays them fully. Ji-hoon sees her rank and is surprised. It's B rank. He thinks that's the same level as a middle knight, which is higher than he expected. She's a water attribute melee type, with most of her stats focused on attack power. Her main skill is beastification after all. While Ji-hoon is lost in thought again, Rhea starts talking. She says he must be feeling burdened, suddenly becoming the village chief. But when she notices he's not reacting, she asks if he's even listening. Ji-hoon responds with a short, yeah, still staring at the stat window. Rhea continues speaking, saying that since he's the chief now, she'll do her best to support him. But Ji-hoon isn't really listening. His eyes are fixed on her stat screen. There's a heart icon next to a number, 40. Curious, he taps on the heart, and the number drops to 35. Ji-hoon frowns and wonders why the number is going down. The stat window vanishes, and Ji-hoon suddenly realizes he had tapped Rhea's nose, right in the middle of her speaking sincerely. He freezes, his fingers still in the air like a bug caught mid-sneeze. Rhea stares at him, furious, and yells that this is the guy they've entrusted with Warren's fate, a village chief who's poking noses like a toddler with too much sugar. Embarrassed, Ji-hoon quickly says he didn't do it on purpose, but Rhea doesn't care. She growls that she still can't accept this and charges at him with her claws. Before he can react, she scratches his face. Tor arrives just in time to see the chaos. Rhea turns to him and firmly tells him to gather all the villagers. Tor glances at Ji-hoon, whose face now looks like a cat used it for target practice. Ji-hoon waves off the concern and awkwardly laughs, saying he's fine. Soon, the entire village is gathered. Ji-hoon sits on a rock while the villagers come to him one by one so he can check each person's stats using Ruler's Eye. He sighs and mutters that checking stats like this really drains his stamina. He starts calculating in his head. Warren has 114 people, including them. As he checks each person, he confirms that the highest rank among them is definitely Rizeldrake. Looking at Rizeldrake through the Ruler's Eye, Ji-hoon notes that for an S-rank monster, the basic attack feels weak, but then he sees that all the stats are heavily focused on magic attack and magic defense. He also sees that Rizeldrake's main skill, Dragon Breath, consumes all of his MP in a single shot. Checking the stat window, he notices that even after a full day, only about half of the MP has recovered. That means Dragon Breath can basically be used once every 2 days. Ji-hoon concludes that in the upcoming battle, they can't count on it. The forces Ji-hoon has right now include B-rank Rhea, C-rank Tor, and the rest are mostly E-rank. Suddenly, the earlier comment that no one could beat Rhea even together starts to make perfect sense. Ji-hoon thinks the team looks more like a cosplay group than an army. Compared to Kingdom Knights, D-rank equals an apprentice knight and E-rank doesn't even exist as an official grade. Basically, you're ranked so low, the system forgot you. Ji-hoon doesn't know the exact ranks of the bandits, but judging by the stage 110 difficulty, they seem to be around C-rank. Now that he has checked everyone's stats, he clearly understands their numbers. It's 114 against 200. Not only are they outnumbered, but they also fall behind in skill, equipment, and troop quality. At this rate, defending Warren feels impossible. He clenches his fist and reminds himself this isn't a game, this is real. Things here exist beyond what games can measure. Still, he believes he can create some variables, some kind of wildcards. He tells Tor and Rhea that he will now explain the strategy. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, the enemy force marches toward the village. From the treetops, 2 rabbit siblings observe them. The older brother urgently tells his little sister to hurry back and inform the village chief, but before he can finish his sentence, a throwing blade hits him in the face, and he collapses. The girl stares in horror, frozen as she watches her brother fall. The man who threw the blade looks directly at her and asks his comrades if the villagers already know they're coming. The girl, terrified out of her mind, turns and runs with all the strength she has. One enemy shouts to catch her, but their leader stops them. When his younger brother asks if he really plans to just let her go, the leader grins creepily and says he's not letting her go, he's infecting her. Back in Warren, Ji-hoon is with the villagers laying out the defense strategy. Suddenly, the rabbit girl from the jungle arrives, panting and covered in blood, and shouts that the humans are coming. Rhea notices her and calls out, asking why she's covered in blood. The girl, Rain, is still shaking with fear and only manages to shout that the humans are already here, still running as she speaks. Ji-hoon's expression hardens. He recalls that he was the only player who ever blocked 100 waves before. He clenches his fist again. This is his first defense mission as part of the monster faction, and he absolutely won't let it be breached. The enemy team approaches the entrance of the village. Their leader looks around and says that this must be the fox's den. One of his men nods and replies that they've already scouted the route. The group thinks dragging this battle out would just be a pain in the neck, so they decide to finish the attack before sunset. Everyone cheers like they're on a victory parade and marches into the cave, completely unaware that the welcome gift inside isn't snacks, but traps. Meanwhile, Jihoon and Rhea are hiding in a corner inside the cave, quietly watching the enemy troops enter. Rhea spots them and whispers to Jihoon that they're here. She looks a little nervous and asks if their plan will actually work. Jihoon tells her that the start is the most crucial part of their operation. They need everything to go as planned, right from the beginning. As the enemy continues walking deeper into the cave, the guy holding the map checks it and says that at this pace, they'll reach the village in about 30 minutes. The leader glances around and notes that the cave is strangely quiet. His younger brother laughs and mocks the monster villagers, saying those dumb beasts are probably huddled together, trembling in fear. He adds with full confidence that he'll personally deal with Jihoon, the same guy who once punched him and bruised both his ego and his face. But just as he takes another step, he hears something odd beneath his feet. He starts to warn the others, saying there's a sound coming from the ground. But before he can finish, the earth under him suddenly collapses. Without any warning, he and several others fall straight into a deep pit that the villagers had secretly dug as a trap. He tries to shout for them to dodge, but it's already too late. Many fall in, some get eliminated from the battle completely, and others are badly injured. Someone breaks an arm, another twists a leg. In the chaos, the leader manages to grab his younger brother's hand just in time and pulls him back up to safety. He says those sneaky bastards have clearly set up a trap. As he peers down into the pit, he notices the wooden planks inside. It's a classic setup. Holes dug into the ground, covered with wooden boards, topped with dirt and rocks to make them look natural. When enough weight is put on it, like a group stepping on it, the support gives out and boom. You're getting a free express ride to the floor below. The guy with the map says that when they came yesterday, there weren't any traps like this. Now they all start thinking that if there's one trap, there might be more. Like stepping into a cursed game of whack-a-mole. They agree it's better to play it safe than end up like squashed potatoes. But their leader doesn't care one bit and keeps walking through the cave like he owns the place. The others try stopping him, saying charging ahead blindly might be dangerous. Before they finish, the leader suddenly yells at them, calling them idiots. He picks up a huge rock with one hand and throws it straight ahead. As soon as the rock hits the ground, the wooden planks underneath snap and the boulder drops right into another hidden pit. Everyone in the enemy team stares in shock. They wonder how the traps are so perfectly placed. It's like the enemy had psychic powers or something. The leader explains that the cave is man-made and dug into a stone mountain. The original ground is solid rock, so anywhere they've dug pits and covered them with wooden planks, dirt, and rocks will look different if you pay close attention. The central entrance feed has been torn up, but it feasibly projected. His younger brother squints at the ground and says that now he can tell the areas with extra gravel are the trap zones. He mocks the villagers, calling them primitive beasts using cheap tricks. The leader says that maybe meat-eating beasts would fall for this nonsense, but herbivore-type humans are just weaklings. According to him, these traps only prove how scared and weak the villagers really are. He orders a few men to stay behind and help the ones who fell into the pit, then keeps moving forward through the cave. He tells the rest to advance carefully while avoiding traps. The group cheers and begins moving again, like they're on a weirdly dangerous school trip. From a dark corner of the cave, Rhea spots them and says that the enemies have found the traps, and at this rate, things might speed up. Jihoon grins and says it's all going just as they planned. Rhea, still confused, asks if getting caught was actually part of the plan. It felt more like they were playing 4D chess while the enemies brought checkers. Jihoon, sounding too casual for someone hiding in a war zone, explains that digging through solid rock, even with demi-human strength buffs, would take too long, and hiding the holes perfectly wasn't doable in such a short time. He says that there are only 2 real deep pit traps. The rest are fakes, just there to slow the enemy down. By making them fear every step, their pace drops to less than half. Rhea nods, slightly impressed. Jihoon says it's time to move to the next position and they sneak away. Meanwhile, the bald guy with the map says that at the upcoming fork they should take the right path to reach the destination. The leader seems puzzled and asks if there's really a fork ahead. Soon they arrive at a point where 3 tunnels lie in front of them. The group starts to feel like they've been here before. The younger brother notices a patch of weeds and says he's seen them earlier. He's sure the path was left, not right. The map reader, scratching his head, insists he thought it was right. They figure the villagers may have used tricks and fake traps to slow them down, but claim it won't work on them. Still, the leader realizes that all of this, the traps, the tunnels, was just a way to stall for time. He guesses the villagers are planning something big back in the village. Not wanting to waste another second, he decides they need to split into 3 teams and push forward fast. He decides to send his brother, Crane, into the left tunnel, assigns Dump the bald guy who looks like a bouncer at a medieval nightclub to take the middle tunnel, and heads toward the right one himself. The team splits up into 3 groups, diving into the dark caves like it's some twisted version of hide-and-seek. Dump tightens his grip on his giant hammer like he's about to smash open a piñata filled with danger, and the boss walks like he's already won a Villain of the Year award. They all move ahead, confident and slightly overcooked on ego. Inside the middle tunnel, the enemy soldiers come to a sudden stop as they find the path blocked by huge rocks. Thinking they've taken the wrong route, they begin turning back, until one of them squints into the darkness and spots a faint light further down the tunnel. He quickly points it out to Dump, who immediately pulls out his hammer and signals everyone to prepare for a fight. Meanwhile, in the right tunnel, one of the enemy scouts catches a glimpse of daylight and reports it to the boss. The boss, brimming with smugness, assumes this confirms that he's on the correct path. He mutters that luck is clearly on his side now, and there's no point in holding back. His goal is simple: storm the village and wipe everyone out, leaving no room for mercy. Back in Dump's tunnel, Dump lets out a loud battle cry and yells for his group to charge. Without hesitation, his men dash forward, weapons ready. At the same time, the boss and his squad rush down their tunnel with the same aggressive energy. But when the boss finally reaches the tunnel's end, he blinks in confusion. He's standing in the middle of a jungle, completely off course. Dump, however, emerges right at the edge of the village. He quickly commands his team to hold their position and assigns one of the soldiers to run back to the forked path and inform both the boss and vice-boss Crane of their progress. The soldier nods and immediately takes off. Suddenly, one of Dump's men shouts and points at a tree nearby. They all turn and spot Cargo, one of their captured teammates, tied up and slumped against the trunk. Dump vetoes. Jem, Lode and Crane are taken up. Yelling his name, the team rushes toward him. Dump kneels, pulls the tape from Cargo's mouth and asks if he's alright. Cargo, clearly dazed but alive, asks where the boss and Crane are. He also looks around and questions why there are so few men with Dump. Meanwhile, deep inside one of the tunnels, a lone enemy soldier gets ambushed by Rhea and is knocked out cold before he can react. Jihoon, watching from a distance, tells her that gaining this upper hand in numbers didn't come easy. Dump turns back to Cargo and begins to explain. He says they used fake traps to delay the enemy and change the cave terrain to confuse them. Though rough and rushed, these traps tricked the enemy into underestimating the villagers and splitting their forces into smaller groups. Cargo, still annoyed and worried, demands to know why they even split up in the first place. He insists that this small number isn't enough and that they're still surrounded, but he soon realizes what Ji-hoon had done. The split allowed them to control the battlefield. Despite having fewer people, the tactic flipped the odds. Now, it's 113 villagers versus only 60 enemy soldiers. Just then, Ji-hoon arrives with his squad. He wastes no time and gives the final command. All units, charge! The dump swings his massive weapon over his head and yells at his crew to wipe them all out. His voice cuts through the chaos like a knife through hot butter. The canyon walls throw his words right back like they're hyped-up fans at a metal concert. The warriors charge in, blades flashing, gripping their homemade weapons like it's the last level of a video game. Jin-Hoo's squad dives in too, faces tight with fury and the kind of "I ain't got time for this" energy only pure rage brings. No mercy, no plan B, just a full-throttle stampede of madness. The ground shakes like it's about to call in sick, and the air hangs heavy with fear, bloodlust, and that rare brand of courage that kicks in when you've got nothing left to lose. As the chaos climbs, the scene flips to a tense standoff on a slanted hillside. The dump stands solid, warhammer in hand, muscles twitching like they've got their own battle AI. Opposite him crouches a tiny pink-hailed warrior, small but seriously deadly. Her eyes stay locked on her giant opponent, sharp as a sniper's scope. Everything slows down. The big guy winds up for a swing so strong it could flatten a house, or at the very least make someone's week go horribly wrong. Just as the hammer crashes down with bone-shaking force, a voice blasts out from the distance. Now, all units, beast, transform! Before the dust even settles, the girl vanishes into a thick cloud of smoke. In a heartbeat, the beast folk trigger their transformation. The battlefield explodes into a foggy storm of claws and chaos. Dust whirls, and monsters burst from the mist, ripping into the confusion like wolves through a flock. One by one they strike, beast moving faster and fiercer than the human fighters can handle. But even with all their tricks, the beast folk still can't bring down the toughest enemies. Up in the sky, Rizzledrak continues raining attacks from above like he's using some boss-level cheat codes. The human fighters shout at him to come down and fight properly, waving their weapons like angry fans yelling at a rock star refusing to stage dive. But Rizzledrak stays airborne, completely out of reach, cool and untouchable, like the guy who ignores texts but still posts memes. Still, the beast folk start gaining the upper hand, not with pure strength, but by overwhelming numbers, sneaky ambushes, and clever smoke tricks that make everything look like a magic show gone wild. Slowly, the momentum begins to shift in their favor, carried by chaos, deception, and sheer stubborn will. Their chances of winning rise sharply. The focus shifts to Cargo, who stands firing bolts rapidly from his crossbow, while two of his men guard him, fending off a wild rabbit beast, charging with reckless fury. On the other side of the battlefield, Joan notices them and signals Rhea to eliminate Cargo and his team, to help the beast folk break through the line. Rhea doesn't waste a second. She bolts forward with incredible speed, her body moving like a blur through the swirling smoke. Cargo spots her coming and quickly takes aim, hoping to stop her in her tracks. But she dodges the arrow easily, sliding past it as smoothly as wind through leaves. Landing hard, she digs her claws into the dirt, eyes locked on her target. The battlefield fades from her mind, everything narrowing to this single moment. Her heart pounds, the air hums with danger, but her determination burns even hotter. She launches into an acrobatic attack, her movements fluid and precise. Her first strike is a swift kick toward one of Cargo's men. He manages to block it with his forearm and throws out a mocking comment, clearly underestimating her, but Rhea doesn't react. Instead, she lands, adjusts her footing, and follows up with a second strike, her heel crashing into his chin with brutal force. His head snaps back, mouth open in a roar of pain as the unexpected power behind her small frame hits like a hammer. Before the second guard can react, Rhea spins around and drives her knee straight into his face. He drops instantly, like a sack of potatoes after leg day. In just a few seconds, both of Cargo's men are out cold, lying flat on the ground like someone unplugged their Wi-Fi. Cargo stares in disbelief, his brain clearly buffering. Fear flashes in his eyes, and though he mutters something under his breath, probably another panic-filled curse, he doesn't get to finish. By the time he processes what's happening, Rhea's leg is already swinging at his face like she's kicking bad decisions out of existence. A link later, his head slams into the dirt. The fight in this corner ends with dead silence, as if even the air needs a second to catch its breath. Rhea stands tall amidst the stillness, her fur-trimmed armor glinting in the sunlight, giving her a fierce, almost regal presence. Her ears twitch, her eyes stay locked on the remaining enemies, and her posture holds strong. She turns toward them, her voice calm yet firm, carrying the weight of a challenge that slices through the air like a blade. Her words make it clear that strength isn't something owned by just one side, and that the enemy shouldn't make the mistake of underestimating them again. Meanwhile, the chaos of the battlefield continues around them. The dump charges through fighters with brute force, smashing anything in his path. But when he notices his men being overwhelmed by the very beasts they once mocked, something changes in him. Anger surges through his body, his fists clench, veins pop, and his teeth grind as fury boils inside him. Shame mixes with disbelief, and a desperate hunger for revenge pushes him past the edge. He growls under his breath, refusing to accept defeat. Not here, not to them. His pride demands an answer. At last he speaks a single word, cold and sharp. Skill. Scheme begins to rise from his mouth, curling like smoke from a waking volcano. And then, his body starts to shift. His size doubles, muscles bulge and tear through his skin like they've outgrown their rental agreement. The ground trembles beneath him like it's having second thoughts. The word skill hangs in the air like a flashing red warning. Something forbidden, something dangerous. Among the night factions, only fighters ranked above C are allowed to use skills, but Dump doesn't care. His ability is brutal, a 50% boost to both attack and defense, basically the buy one punch get one free deal of destruction. He mutters insults under his breath, mocking the enemies as pathetic and weak, clearly feeling himself a bit too much. Gripping a tree trunk like it's a toothpick, he prepares to unleash chaos, until a deep, monstrous growl suddenly echoes behind him. He turns, and there it is. A towering beast, even larger than him, standing tall, with glowing eyes locked onto him. Shock hits Dump hard, but before he can finish a thought, a massive smack cracks through the air. Something heavy slams into the ground like thunder. Dust flies. Silence follows. Meanwhile, deep within the caves, Dump's brother waits with his squad, eyes fixed on the entrance. Growing impatient, he mumbles about how long they're expected to wait. The tension thickens like soup left on the fire too long. Nearby, another soldier finally breaks the silence. His voice carries both frustration and fear as he wonders aloud why no one has returned. The wait drags on, feeding unease. One of the fighters, fists clenched and shoulders tight, mutters something bitter under his breath. A quiet growl of someone pushed to the edge. Without waiting for orders, he begins walking toward the battlefield, clearly done sitting around. Out in the open, Ji-hoon's team holds their position after a tough fight. The dust settles across the field. All 60 enemy fighters have been captured. There's no more risk of escape. The immediate threat is handled. Ji-hoon and Taurus meet at the center of the field, calmly checking the condition of their squad. Ji-hoon asks for a report on the wounded. Taurus gives a quick nod and explains that 23 are severely injured, and 42 have lighter wounds. Even though they had nearly double the enemy's numbers, the cost is high. Over half the team has suffered. But despite the toll, the operation is a success. Still, there is no time to celebrate. More enemies are already approaching. A larger force is on the move. Ji-hoon looks at the captured weapons scattered across the field. He knows what must be done. It's time to dig in. He gives the order to hold the ground and instructs Taurus to arm everyone using the weapons taken from the humans. Taurus responds with a sharp nod, quickly organizing the defense. There's no rest now. Victory came at a cost. And the next battle is already on its way. All the beast folks quickly pick up Dump's group's weapons and instantly get stronger. Some even act like kids at a candy shop, amazed to see the weapons for the first time, especially the little girl Rain. One guy even mutters, "Bro, it's like free power-up DLC." On the other hand, Kim stays serious, glancing at the beast folks and activating his ruler's eyes. After locking onto Tor, Rain, and many other beast folks, he realizes that even though their rank is the same, their attack power has shot up a lot because of the weapons they picked from Dump's group members. He feels happy inside, accepting that this is beyond imagination, something he never thought would happen. Meanwhile, Crane's group reaches near the village. As Crane spots the exit, he realizes the main exit is at Dump's group's side, but as he looks around, he notices the place is oddly silent, which is unexpected from an area where a war was supposed to happen. Just then, he spots heads lying on the ground and becomes shocked, mistaking them for dead people. Fear grips him, but when he looks closer, he sees they are still alive, though badly injured. He rushes toward them with his group and wonders aloud what they are doing there, questioning how they ended up in such a situation. As he approaches, he assures them not to worry, promising that he will get them out. But when he comes closer, he notices several holes in the ground. Seeing them, he becomes confused, wondering why there are so many empty holes and what their purpose is. Just as he is about to rescue Dump's group members, two rabbits suddenly attack Crane from behind. He gets no chance to dodge and takes a direct hit from their weapons. Crane falls down on the ground and screams in pain. Meanwhile, Screamspike stomps angrily through the cave, urging his group to hurry up. As he walks forward, he vents his frustration, saying that without a map they are totally lost, and finding the way is as difficult as finding a way in a maze. One of the group members suddenly spots a path and says it looks like the right one. He explains that if they pass through the passage, there will be a three-way fork ahead. The group steps forward but unknowingly lands on a trap. It is too late when they realize they are already caught. Screamspike looks shocked and warns that too much weight is on the trap's area, and it is about to collapse. One member shouts for everyone to get away while another panics, saying it is already too late, and the ground will break any second. But instead of the ground, the guy himself falls from momentum while the floor stays firm. As he hits the ground, silence spreads in the group. They exchange confused glances. One asks what really happened and why the ground is not collapsing. Another agrees, saying it should have broken by now if it was a trap. Suddenly, Screamspike grabs one of the group members' weapon, leaving him confused as he asks what the boss is doing. Without answering, Screamspike smashes the weapon on the ground. The floor remains solid. Everyone now understands it is not a trap but plain stone. Seeing this, Screamspike bursts into laughter and reveals that only the entrance of the cave had real traps while the rest were fake, but his smile quickly turns into anger. He growls, wondering how anyone dares to mock Screamspike and his bandits. Then, with a twisted grin, he announces that he will tear them all to shreds. Just then, one of the surviving members of Crane's group manages to escape from the village and stumbles towards Screamspike's group. Half dead and looking like he just fought WWE without practice, he reveals that they found the passage. It was the middle tunnel that leads to the village. As he explains that it was Dump's group who first discovered the place, Screamspike simply listens, realizing that now it's their turn to back Dump's team. On the other hand, after a few hours, Tor meets Kim and explains that they successfully captured everyone from the second group that came. Kim just nods, praises Tor and the others for their good work, and stays calm. While the captured group members remain tied, they only listen to the conversation, knowing they can do nothing but stare. Kim then glances at the village entrance and realizes that at the fork in the road, if they tear down just one wall, they'll find a path back to the entrance. He knows that because of this, they now have more time to isolate the groups before their backup arrives. He keeps staring at that point, thinking that the only thing left is the last and strongest group, with their leader Screamspike leading the charge. He knows they just need to hold out one more time, and they will successfully defend the village. Just then, Crane breaks free from the wooden stick tied to his mouth and shouts at Kim, calling him a fool. He declares that no matter how much the beastfolk subdue them, once his big brother Screamspike arrives, it will all be over. Crane laughs while glaring at Kim, boasting that his brother is on a different level from them, but just as he continues praising Screamspike, Rhea rushes forward and kicks him in the face, cutting his sentence midway. She coldly commands him to stay quiet. Rhea glances at Kim and says that just like he guessed, when she counted only those fit for fighting, the number is around 65. Kim hears that and realizes the remaining bandits are about 60, including their boss Screamspike. He knows their side is already low on stamina since they have fought twice, but he doesn't panic. Instead, he quickly scans his army with his ruler's eye skill. To his surprise, he notices their levels have gone up a lot, and the beastfolk have gained solid combat experience from the last two battles. Kim rests his sword on his shoulder and grins, thinking they actually stand a chance now. But his cool guy pose doesn't last long. He admits the sword feels heavier than he first thought. A few minutes later, Screamspike's group shows up at the entrance, grabbing everyone's attention. Rhea and Kim look at them, and Rhea confirms that he is. Here, it's time for the final battle. As Screamspike walks forward, Crane looks at him and calls him big brother. But Screamspike doesn't act kind. Instead, he mocks Crane as a pathetic fool, saying the same about the others. Then he turns his gaze to Kim and asks if this whole setup was his scheme. Kim calmly looks back and replies that it should be called a strategy, not a scheme, telling him not to insult his plan. Hearing that, Screamspike laughs and praises Kim for becoming confident, but quickly adds that 2 victories must have been sweet, yet there won't be a third. Kim responds that they'll only know after the fight. He then steps closer to Crane and says he has one proposal, but the next second he corrects himself. Rather than a proposal, it's actually a threat for Screamspike. He places his sword near Crane's neck and says that if he wants to save his little brother, he should retreat and surrender. Kim tells everyone to drop their weapons if they truly want to save Crane, but Screamspike stays silent. Crane becomes scared and shouts, "Big brother!" Kim keeps his sword steady, even though he knows this is the kind of cheap drama only third-rate villains pull off in movies or comics. But hey, life isn't Netflix, so he decides not to act picky or play superhero right now. He knows that winning the battle is more important right now than acting all tough. He then glances at the bandits in confusion, wondering if they will accept the deal or not. To his surprise, all the bandits actually drop their weapons. Kim becomes shocked, thinking maybe his trick worked, but when he looks at their faces, he realizes they are laughing, with full confidence. He feels confused, noticing that the bandits' mood has completely changed. Just then, Scream Spike bends down, touches the ground with his hand, and declares that everyone will kneel before him and scream. Suddenly, he unleashes a skill that releases energy from the ground. Kim's eyes widen as he realizes it's an area skill buff. This skill boosts all stats of allies, including the user, within a certain range by 25%. Sworn Rhea also becomes shocked as they sense the sudden rise in the bandits' power. Kim feels it too, even without seeing their exact stats. His whole body can tell they are stronger now. He admits that their combat strength has dramatically increased. Then, Scream Spike commands his group to rush at the beastfolks and slaughter to their heart's content. Hearing that, the bandits charge forward, aiming to kill them all. Just as the bandit group charges toward the beastfolks, the latter don't just stand like statues waiting to be smacked. The beastfolks also rush forward to clash in a head-on battle, but right before both sides can actually throw hands, a huge cloud of smoke bursts out from the beastfolks' side, leaving the bandits scratching their heads in confusion. Out of nowhere, the beastfolks transform into rabbits. Yeah, imagine scary warriors turning into fluffy bunnies, but you can't exactly call them scary warriors. Using the smoke to their advantage, one rabbit leaps at a bandit and makes him drop his sword. Before the bandit can pick it up, another rabbit jumps in like backup and smacks him from behind on the head. The bandit takes the hit and stumbles, briefly staring at the ground. Holding his arm in pain, he makes the rabbits wonder if they really defeated him. But just then, the bandit lifts his head and laughs at them, asking if that weak attack was all they had. Seeing this, both rabbits freeze in fear. Before they can escape, the bandit dashes forward and hurls them into the air. Just like that, the rabbits get overpowered. Unlike them, Tower keeps fighting fiercely, cutting down bandits and giving them real trouble. However, the tide turns when the bandits team up against him. They throw ropes to trap him, and when one of them shouts the order, Tower looks that way and realizes it's already too late. He knows that before he can dodge, the ropes will wrap around his body. Just as he predicts, the ropes coil tightly around his hands and neck. The bandits pull with all their strength, while one commands the others to never let go of the rope. Another bandit agrees and orders the group to tie the rope to their arms and grip it with their wrists. The rope is pulled tight and Tower crashes down to his knees. The moment he does, the bandits rush forward, shouting that this is their chance to capture the big bull. Tower struggles hard to break free but fails, while the bandits keep yelling at each other to swarm him. Some even joke that tonight's dinner is beef and Tower himself is on the menu. Man, these guys sound hungrier than college kids after 4 continue lectures. If attitude was a weapon, these bandits would be max level already. On the other side, the bandits overpower the rabbits with weapons and magic, forcing them to retreat. Just like the rabbits, Rizzledrake struggles to stay in the air as he gets surrounded from all sides. Kim notices everything and feels shocked, realizing that even though they had boosted combat power with weapons and leveled up through battles, they are still being pushed back. Confused, he glances around, wondering where Rhea is and whether she can still fight. His gaze soon finds her as she lands on the ground after striking down one of the bandits. Relief washes over him for a second, but it fades instantly when he sees Rhea being surrounded by the group. He knows she cannot win against so many enemies at once. As Rhea wipes sweat off her face, Kim's fear deepens, realizing she too has reached her limit. Suddenly, a rabbit flies past his face and crashes into a tree nearby, leaving him frozen in shock. When he looks at the fallen beastfolk, his fear doubles, and he understands that they are completely being overwhelmed. At this rate, Kim knows defeat at the hands of the bandit group is certain. He glances back at Rhea and the others, realizing there's now only one way to end this war. Man's brain finally loads like slow Wi-Fi, but hey, better late than never. He then notices the leader of the group, Scream Spike. Glancing at him, Kim accepts that the only way to end the war is to eliminate the enemy leader. As he looks at Scream Spike, he sees that Spike is still commanding his men to charge at the rabbits and completely massacre the village. Kim decides he can't just stand there like a background NPC, so he quickly glances at Tar. Seeing Tower struggling against the group, Kim calls out his name. Hearing it, Tower looks back and notices Kim is dead serious. At that moment, Tower remembers their talk before the war started. He recalls how Kim asked if he could awaken one more time. Tower had agreed and asked how Kim even knew that. But Kim ignored the question and simply said that since the transformation lasts only 3 minutes, he should save the final one until Kim gives the signal. Now, while Tor looks at Kim, one of the bandits gets angry and yells for the others to finish him off. Hearing this, the group rushes at Tor with weapons in hand, aiming to kill him on the spot. Kim shouts Tor's name again and commands him to awaken. Tor immediately tries to stand and follows the order. Just before the bandits can strike, he awakens and uses his final transformation, Bovine Race Awakening. His body grows larger and both his defense and health rise by 50%. Without wasting time, Kim charges toward the boss and tells Tor to follow. Tor doesn't ask questions and quickly runs after him, ready to fight at Kim's side. Kim glances at the boss and realizes that since Tor's transformation only lasts 3 minutes, they have to capture the boss within that time. Damn, talk about speed running a boss fight. Tor dashes toward the boss, but one unlucky bandit is still stuck with him because the rope he tied earlier refuses to let go. The poor guy shouts for help, begging his teammates to save him, but Scream Spike just stares at the scene and grins, like he's watching some free comedy show. Tor, annoyed, swings his arm in anger and throws the bandit straight over the boss, aiming to finish the fight with a single punch. But as his fist lands, he is stunned to see it blocked by none other than Scream Spike himself. The impact is so powerful that it makes the dirt on the ground fly in the air. Both Tower and Scream Spike gets covered in the dirt smoke. Just then, the boss's voice echoes calmly, saying Tower might have gotten bigger, but there's still nothing inside him. He's as weak as ever. Meanwhile, Kim leaps into the air trying a sneak attack, hoping Tower can act as a decoy while he delivers the real blow, but Scream Spike glances at Kim and simply smirks. Without any struggle, he quickly pushes Tower away with force. As Tower flies in the air, Kim realizes that the projectile is straightly aimed at him. He realizes that the leader blocked him without breaking a sweat. On top of that, Kim is left in disbelief, realizing that even with his transformation, Tar is no match for the group leader. Tar crashes straight into Kim and both tumble to the ground. While Kim struggles to stand up, Scream Spike completely ignores him and dashes at Tar. Before Tar can even blink, Scream Spike smashes a solid kick right into his face, leaving him no chance to dodge. Meanwhile, Kim sits up, but the group leader only glances at him and smiles before rushing towards him after knocking Tar out with no difficulty. Before Kim can even get on his feet, Scream Spike comes closer to him, aiming to punch him in the face and give him the same discount beating as Tower. And just like he planned, Scream Spike's punch sends Kim flying, crashing hard into a tree branch. While Rhea fights the bandits, her attention quickly shifts toward Kim as she hears the loud crash. She notices Kim is badly injured after that strike and struggling just to keep up. On the other hand, Kim forces himself to stay steady, opening one eye to glare at Scream Spike. He recalls how, after checking everyone's stats, he confirmed that his combat power is lower than both Rhea and Tower. Just then, Scream Spike lunges at him again, but Kim steps forward. Even though his combat power is low, he firmly believes that if the opponent is human, he can still win. At that moment, Kim activates his passive skill, Physical Disaster, which lets him transcend human strength. He prepares a counterpunch, knowing that against humans, all of his stats rise by 200% once the skill is active. Seeing Kim's sudden aura and immense power, Scream Spike freezes in shock. With no chance to dodge, he takes Kim's swift counterpunch straight to the face. Seeing the punch, both Tor and Rhea are left shocked. They think the fight might actually turn in their favor if Kim manages to beat the opponent bandit group's leader Scream Spike. Even Kim feels hyped after the punch. Do really thinks he landed a finisher move to Scream Spike. Kim then glances at Scream Spike and realizes that he even heard the guy's neck snap. He becomes confident, realizing that Scream Spike is now injured. However, to his surprise, Scream Spike doesn't fall on the ground. Instead, he plants his foot firmly and steadies himself. Scream Spike glances at Kim and says that he already told him he won't ever get 3 wins in a row. He smiles at Kim. However, Kim doesn't exchange the same look as he stares at Scream Spike and becomes shocked and scared. While Scream Spike casually wipes blood from his mouth, Kim can only wonder how the hell they are supposed to beat someone this strong, who feels way above all of them. Before Kim can react, Scream Spike slams a punch straight into his stomach, making him scream in pain. He can't endure it and quickly drops to the ground. As his knees hit the dirt, he keeps choking and spitting saliva, while Scream Spike just stands there, laughing. Kim's hand touches the ground for support, but he still tries to rise, knowing he can't give up yet. He knows that he is now the village chief and he needs to save the village. He knows he must continue fighting. However, before he can stand, Scream Spike grabs his head, and before Kim even realizes, he smashes it down hard into the ground. Kim screams as the impact lands, his head pinned tightly. He struggles to get up, but Scream Spike presses him down with brute strength, saying he won't ever let him rise again. He glances at the beast folks and smirks, saying that Kim should just stay down and let everyone enjoy the free show of him struggling against the bandit leader. It feels like Kim is trending live without even asking for it. Just as Scream Spike says, all eyes turn toward Kim. Some try to move but are too injured to help. Even Tor struggles to get up, knowing Kim needs support and that beating Scream Spike, the opponent leader, is the only way to win. But before Tor can rise, his eyes shift to the side as he notices Rhea running toward Kim. Tor shouts her name, yet Rhea ignores him and orders Scream Spike to step away from Kim. The bandit leader doesn't even flinch, keeping Kim pinned down. Just before Rhea can reach him, another bandit draws his weapon and aims at her. She doesn't expect the strike and takes a direct arrow to her leg. Shock spreads across her face as she takes a direct hit. Kim also freezes, realizing that even Rhea is now injured and unfit to fight. As she collapses to the ground, Kim cries out her name, but Rhea is too hurt to move or speak. At that moment, Scream Spike lifts his gaze to the sky and notices the sun sinking. He quickly warns his group that the sun is almost gone, yet it is already too late. While the bandits listen, he declares the war over. With a cruel smile, he orders his men to burn everything. Hearing this, Kim's anger burns, but frustration weighs heavier as he realizes he can't save the village. The bandits set fire to the houses, trees, and even dry grains. Kim stares in shock and fear, trying to stop Scream Spike, but the leader ignores him. Flames spread across the village, and the already wounded beast folks panic, running helplessly from the fire. On the other hand, the bandit group enjoys burning the village, hyping each other up to throw and destroy everything. They're basically having a fire party, shouting like maniacs. Someone should really tell them bonfires are for marshmallows, not houses. While the bandits laugh, the beast folks just stare at the flames in disappointment, knowing they can't do anything to save their home. Meanwhile, Scream Spike talks with Kim, saying war isn't as simple as kids like Kim imagine. Kim only glares at the fire, while Scream Spike continues, explaining that the losing side loses everything and falls straight to zero. Kim's eyes then move toward one of the beast folks who is captured. The bandits mock him, calling him little calf and forcing him to moo like one, while making him sit on his knees. Helpless, the beast folk lowers his head. At the same time, Scream Spike warns Kim that he now has to lose everything: Tar, his family, his friends, and even his home. He grabs Kim by the collar and lifts him up, adding that Kim will also lose his life. Seeing this, Rhea becomes shocked and scared, wondering what the bandit leader plans to do with their village chief. Even though badly injured, Kim raises his hands and grips Scream Spike's arm, making the leader laugh. The bandit boss glances at him and asks if he still refuses to give up. He declares it's already over and Kim should surrender. But Kim speaks softly, saying he can't lose until he reaches his goal. At that moment, a memory of his mother flashes in his mind, how she once brought home a small cat, saying she was too pretty to leave behind. She talked to the cat and asked if she would like Kim as her new buddy. Remembering that, Kim realizes that, to return to those peaceful times, he must win this war and keep fighting. He remembers the final goal of the monsters when he chose this faction, the plan to wipe out humanity completely. He shouts that he will never give up. That sudden roar shocks everyone, even Tor and Rhea. But Scream Spike just keeps laughing and says it doesn't matter whether Kim quits or not. He then pulls out a knife, declaring that Kim's role is over. Kim freezes when he sees the knife slowly moving towards him. Fear spreads across his face as he glances at the moon above, wondering if this really is his defeat. But just before the blade touches his neck, Rhea bursts forward and slashes off Scream Spike's arm. The arm spins through the air and Scream Spike is left stunned, forgetting about stabbing Kim. Just like him, Kim also stands in shock and stares at Rhea. He then recalls the time when he was checking the stats of beast folks. Every other beast folk could awaken freely by spending mana, but Rhea was an exception. No awakening even with mana to spare. He remembers the first time they met, when she was on the verge of death. Even then, she didn't awaken. Kim starts wondering if there was a restriction placed on the Foxfolk awakening. Just as he expects, Rhea now stands proudly in front of Scream Spike, using her skill Foxfolk Awakening that can only activate under the moonlight. Under the moonlight, her true power erupts, doubling all her stats. She calls out to Kim with confidence, asking for his next orders. Kim softly says her name, while Scream Spike keeps howling in pain. Without paying him any attention, Kim looks only at Rhea and commands her to wipe out every last bandit. Ji-hoon's order reached Rhea, and she stepped forward with determination. Right then, the bandit boss Scream Spike showed up, mad as hell, acting like someone just unfollowed him on Instagram. He lunged at her, screaming about his hand like it was some VIP-only property no monster had the right to touch. Without a second's pause, Rhea smacked his hand like swatting a fly and, in one clean swipe, turned his throat into a split-open soda can. Scream Spike staggered in shock, his neck torn apart, and tried to say something, but Rhea silenced him coldly. Within seconds, his life ended, and his body collapsed to the ground. The other bandits stood frozen like laggy NPCs, watching their boss drop. Panic hit them all at once. Some bawled, some screamed, and the rest looked like they were already drafting their resignation letters on the spot. At the same time, the field effect activated, draining their strength. Confusion spread among them as they realized their stats were dropping. They cried out in disbelief, clutching their wounds, unable to understand how much weaker they had become. Then, the system window announced the arrival of night. As darkness spread, monsters grew stronger, and all of their stats increased by 20%. The folk beasts let out roars so loud it felt like a stadium crowd after free pizza was announced. Their voices crashed together in rage and hype, swearing they'd run it back, keep swinging and erase humans like outdated software. The bandits, horrified by the sudden change, realized it was night, and admitted they could not win in this situation. Fear overtook them and their morale shattered. Jihoon called out to the folk beasts, rallying them together. The humans turned to flee, but the folk beasts chased them relentlessly. In the end, the humans escaped, leaving the folk beasts behind to claim victory. Joy spread among the folk beasts as they celebrated, their voices echoing in triumph. But Jihoon did not share their relief. His thoughts weighed heavily with guilt. He realized he had been careless, thinking it was only an early mission. Confidence in a smooth plan had blinded him, and the first true battle in this world had ended in devastation. Over half the village was burned, and many folk beasts lay dead or wounded. As the rain began to fall, Jihoon's guilt deepened. He cursed himself, believing that if only he had done better, the outcome would not have been so tragic. Rhea, however, reassured him. She reminded him that he did not need to shoulder everything alone. Her calm words reached him as she spoke of how everyone had different abilities and how he had done his best within his own. Then, with a gentle smile, she asked him to continue taking good care of Warren, addressing him as their chief. Jihoon softly called Rhea's name, and the sound of it from his lips made her blush deeply. Embarrassed, she quickly excused herself, saying she needed to clean everything, and then hurried away. Rhea turned her attention to the beastfolk, asking if everyone was okay and offering to help as well. Jihoon, watching her, thought to himself that her presence had given him strength. He realized it was not over yet. For him, everything was only beginning. The system window appeared, notifying that the main quest had been cleared. It declared the establishment of the monster faction a success, showing a population count of 82 people. As a reward, a random skill had been acquired, and the option was given to claim it immediately or later. Jihoon resolved that from now on, he would not repeat the same mistake. Choosing to claim the reward, he received and learned the skill Weapon Refining 1. A few days later, Jihoon was seen repairing the burned houses of the beastfolk. Rhea came to him, calling him to eat. He looked at the food and sighed at the sight of carrots again, thinking about how boring it was to keep eating the same thing. Rhea, chewing the carrots in her usual cute way, explained that although the carrot field had burned, the food storage had thankfully remained safe. Even Rizal Drag was eating carrots beside her. Jihoon thought to himself that despite her words, they had been eating only carrots ever since they had arrived. He reflected on how both Rhea and Rizal had originally been meat eaters, but now they were forced into vegetarianism. Still, he admitted that it was better than nothing. Rhea asked about his leg, concerned if it was healing. Jihoon reassured himself that he could now walk again without issue. His gaze then moved across the village, where he saw the beastfolk helping each other to clean and rebuild. He observed their vitality and recovery, recognizing how exceptional their strength truly was. Thanks to these qualities, the village was quickly restored. 2 weeks had already passed since that fierce battle. During that time, funerals were held for the victims, and, except for those bandits who had died or fled, the 55 who were captured were judged. The atmosphere had been filled with glares and anger, as everyone had wanted to avenge the fallen immediately. But taking the lives of unarmed beings was not an easy matter. After long discussions, it was decided they would be released, though not without conditions. The Howling Dagger Gang, a group so elusive that even the kingdom could not capture them, was set adrift. It was said that the seas were inhabited by various monsters, and if the bandits were fortunate enough to avoid them and survive the currents, they would eventually arrive in the kingdom. There, they would receive proper punishment for their crimes. In the days that followed, Jihoon discovered something by chance, something that revealed the true reason the bandits had been searching for the fox den and the item their leader had been so desperate to find. He uncovered this secret while visiting Rhea's house. Rhea welcomed him, relieved that her home had remained intact after the chaos. Inside, Jihoon used the ruler's eye and discovered enhancement stones lying within. His eyes widened in shock as he realized that among them was even a B-grade enhancement stone. Startled, he turned his thoughts toward Rhea, questioning why something so precious could be in her house. She, in turn, asked him what enhancement stones even were. Then she opened a bundle, showing him more, and Jihoon was stunned to see an entire bundle of enhancement stones in her possession. His shock grew further when he looked upward and noticed yet another sack placed above, filled with the same rare stones. The sight left him speechless. Jihoon froze like someone checking their bank app after a night out, staring at the mountain of enhancement stones. His brain shook, wondering if the whole stash was real or just his worst nightmare in 4K. He later explained something he came to understand. Fox beastfolk were naturally drawn to shiny objects, believing they brought good luck. They had a habit of hiding them in their homes. The bandits seemed to know about this habit, and that was the reason they had attacked. Everyone told Rhea to chill, but she kept blaming herself. In peak guilty dramatic fashion, she even tried to yeet the entire pile of enhancement stones into the ocean like some kind of bargain bin Titanic scene. Jihoon had stopped her, telling her that the one who collected shiny stones was not at fault. The one who coveted them was the one truly wrong. Those simple words caused her heart level to shoot up to 60 instantly. After that, Jihoon kept the stones for safety, realizing from the war that they needed to get stronger, far stronger than before. That evening, Jihoon asked Rhea where the bandits' weapons had been stored. She told him they were probably in the warehouse. Together, they went there, where Mia found them. When asked what he was doing, Jihoon explained that he was there to test his luck and skill. He rubbed an enhancement stone against a sword and called upon Weapon Refinement. A red aura burst from the warehouse, and the stone in his hand shattered completely. Rhea was startled, claiming something had flashed, but that only her shiny stones had broken. Jihoon confirmed it had succeeded. Rhea grew angry, demanding what he meant by success, when all he had done was break her stones. Jihoon then explained that the success rate of enhancing C-grade items was 70%. The system confirmed this, showing that the weapon had been enhanced. Crane's poison sword changed from -1 attack and -100 to a successful +1 enhancement. Jihoon compared the system to the human faction and noted that the success rate for B-grade items was 55%. He tested it on the Screaming All, which began with 130 attack and 230 magic attack. With determination, he decided to begin serious enhancement. Jihoon refined again, and this time the flash of light was seen by a beastfolk outside. He continued without pause, refining weapons again and again through the entire night. By morning, flashes of light had been seen repeatedly, and some beast folk wondered aloud what was happening inside the warehouse. Rhea rushed in and found him still working. She was shocked to learn he had gone through the process 2,568 times. He admitted he had burned through them all. Rhea looked at him, realizing that she had been ready to throw them into the sea anyway, yet now he had destroyed them all. She struck him hard on the head in frustration, demanding what he meant by breaking every single one. Ji-hoon quickly explained that the enhancement had succeeded. In his hand was a dagger glowing with a green aura. The system revealed the result. The Screaming All had reached +10, with its attack rising by 130 +13, and its magic attack rising by 230 +23. Rhea was stunned to see 10 enhancements completed with only 10 stones, all successful. She demanded to know what was different here. Ji-hoon pointed out the results, showing her the enhanced weapons that now filled the warehouse. He explained it was partly due to higher success rates, but even ordinary bandit swords had been enhanced to incredible levels, and even Tower's weapon had reached +100 enhancement. Rhea still failed to see the difference, only noticing that the weapons had gotten dustier. At that moment Tower arrived, and Ji-hoon said his timing was perfect. He asked Tower to try using Dump's hammer. Tower lifted it and confirmed it was definitely heavier than before, but still manageable. Ji-hoon observed that while it looked tough to handle, the hammer had started as a C-grade item, but with the enhancement, it now surpassed even B-grade weapons in pure attack power. The system revealed its stats: attack 354, attack 143, magic attack 253. Ji-hoon realized the stat boost from weapon enhancement was reflected in the weapon's weight. Rhea noticed his mood and wondered why he looked happy one moment and gloomy the next. Ji-hoon's thoughts drifted to his S-grade weapon Hellbringer. He remembered that Shellbringer started with magic attack 999, and that its additional stats were sealed. Even without unlocking further stats, it already had immense power. He recalled pulling the best S-grade weapon in the first wave. If he had only had that weapon, the bandits would have been defeated with ease. He sighed, reminding himself that he could not use magic, and wondered if his Hellbringer was truly safe where it was. Meanwhile, in the kingdom, reconstruction was nearly complete. People questioned why a certain hole was being left open, whispering that something ominous was inside. Ares trying to pull out the Hellbringer from the ground, but he fails and shouts in anger that this much should have been enough. Yet as he looked down, this blade is releasing a strange purple aura. He was startled, certain that there had been something inside. Two men behind him found it surprising, remarking that even the Ares had gone all out but could not pull it out. They worried that sealing the hole like this was dangerous and troublesome. Far away, Ji-hoon received a new system notification. The main quest had updated. Quest 3 required expanding the monster faction by gathering monsters in the surrounding area. The current population was 82 out of 1,000. The reward promised a random gradestone. Ji-hoon was surprised by the sudden mission. He realized the number 82 represented Warren's population, and the quest required raising it to 1,000 members. The goal felt uncomfortably specific. The system window then revealed that the party window had been activated. Parties could register up to 4 members. Synergy effects would activate between them. Experience earned would be shared and distributed according to contribution. Ji-hoon studied the system and compared it to forming parties in Night Defense Adventure. It felt familiar. He thought about party composition, realizing that 4 close-range members would be obvious. Turning to Tower, he said it was time to go gather nearby monsters. Tower, however, refused. He explained that it would be better for him to stay behind, focusing on protecting and rebuilding Warren. Ji-hoon considered this and admitted Tower was right. The beast folk had indeed grown stronger, but if both Rhea and Tower's main fighters left the village, then if enemies attacked while they were gone, Warren could be destroyed. Unlike in games, reality had many more consequences to consider. Still, Ji-hoon thought about synergy effects and how valuable it would be to fill all 4 party slots. He decided to leave Tor in the village, but then he wondered to himself who else he should take. Ji-hoon eyed the beast folk closely and realized most of their stats looked about the same. Leaning in, he whispered something low to Tar. Tar replied that he would prepare. Soon, Tar called all the beast folk together and stand in line. Ji-hoon smirked quietly, noting that, aside from the chief, Tar, and the 3 of them, 77 beast folk were left in Warren. He knew he couldn't just pick at random. Tor then addressed the beast folk, asking them to show their abilities. To the most capable among the 77, he promised qualification to join their 4-person expedition team. He called for numbers 1 through 4 to enter. Ji-hoon reminded the group that the test wasn't just about muscle but about guts and grit. Fit for adventuring, and if anyone had a hidden trick up their sleeve, now was the time to flaunt it. Some beast folk hesitated. One admitted wanting to stay in Warren. Tar accepted the decision, while another said he needed to plant carrots. They all had to plant together, because they needed to eat what they planned. Ji-hoon whispered something again to Tower. Tower then told everyone that from now on only those who wished to participate should remain. He announced that it had been narrowed down to only the beast folk willing to join. He called for them to enter. One beast folk nervously introduced herself as Rain. She declared that if chosen for the expedition team, she could cook, do laundry, gather herbs, scout, or work as a porter. She said she could do anything. Rhea immediately declared her a pass, vowing to dedicate her life. Ji-hoon, however, told them to move to the next participant for now. Rain's expression fell, believing she had failed. But when Ji-hoon asked Tor to let the next participant in, Tor admitted that Rain was the only applicant. Relief filled Rain, while Ji-hoon was shocked that there had only been one applicant. Ji-hoon reflected on this and concluded that the lizard expedition team was formed to find the lizard tribe. He prepared to depart with Rhea, Rain, Tower, and Roselle the dragon. He called out to the lizard expedition team to set off. Rain looked confused at the name. She stammered, asking if lizards meant the terrifying lizard tribe. Ji-hoon reminded her that Tor had explained it earlier. Rain realized she had been too nervous and had not heard it. Ji-hoon asked Rain about the plan, pointing out that they had spoken of rallying surrounding monsters but had not decided where to go. Rain admitted that nothing had been decided yet. Ji-hoon suggested they should figure that out before recruiting more party members. They then visited the previous village chief, only to find him sleeping. Tower explained that he had been sleeping soundly since just before the battle. Ji-hoon asked how long he slept and Tower answered that it lasted a month. Ji-hoon had intended to ask about nearby tribes worth rallying. Rhea explained that due to frequent human invasions, all nearby monster villages had been annihilated. Ji-hoon asked if there were truly no villages worth rallying near Warren. Rhea replied that small villages of monsters who had lost their homes might be hiding like Warren, but it was not enough. To bring down the human faction, strong monsters were needed. Tor then revealed there was one strong tribe that had not submitted to humans. Ji-hoon was intrigued, and Tor explained that they had strong independence and would not form alliances with other tribes. When Ji-hoon asked who they were, Tor revealed it was the lizard tribe. They lived deep in the swamplands north of Warren and were probably the strongest race in the area. Other monsters feared them so much that they avoided lizard territory when traveling. Ji-hoon already knew. He thought of the lizardmen, powerful monsters that appeared in the early 30s waves out of 100. To monsters below the 30s they must have seemed the strongest. But the same was true for humans. It had only been 2 weeks since the first wave, and at this early stage if he could make the lizard tribe his allies, monsters that should appear in the 30s could stand with him. Ji-hoon asked where exactly the lizard tribe was. Tor handed him a map and explained that by crossing 3 mountains and a river they would reach Twin Mountain Valley, where the swamp of the lizard tribe lay. With that they set off on their journey. Ji-hoon panted, realizing it looked close on the map, but he could not even see the mountains. As they traveled, Rhea discovered a stone. Ji-hoon recognized it as a D rank enhancement stone, good for stamina. Rain thought proudly that this was an adventure with the village chief and Warren's strongest warrior, Rhea. Her heart pounded, and she resolved that she needed to be helpful too. Ji-hoon asked how much further they needed to travel before reaching the first mountain. Rhea felt ready to prove herself, recalling the scouting records she had organized while on reconnaissance duty. By checking them, she could figure out where they were. Rizal suddenly took to the air. Ji-hoon noted that they had to travel as far as they had already come. Rain regretted being one step too late. Rhea pointed out that once they crossed the first mountain, it would be quick. She urged Rain to hurry. Rain reminded herself that she needed to prove her worth, but also not to be hasty. She reassured herself that the opportunity would come. Then, a massive stone blocked their path. Rain believed this was her chance. Path clearing was a rabbit beast folk's specialty, and she was determined to show her worth. She cried out for awakening, but before she could act, the stone broke by itself. Rhea noted that it had broken better than expected. Ji-hoon reminded them that their levels had risen significantly from fighting the boss. Rhea curiously asked what he meant by level. She then asked Rain why she had awakened. Rain admitted it had been by mistake. She worried that she should not have been hasty and wondered if her help was not needed. Suddenly, Rain heard footsteps. She alerted the group to movement, insisting the sounds were from footsteps. Ji-hoon admitted he could not hear anything. Ryo explained that Rain had exceptional hearing, even among the rabbit folk, which was why she had been trusted with scouting. Ji-hoon realized that this might be the same child from before. Rain listened carefully and confirmed it was the rat tribe. It was not just 1 or 2, but a large-scale movement. Ji-hoon asked if she meant the boom rats. Rain questioned where they were going, realizing their direction led toward human lands, toward the kingdom itself. Ji-hoon felt a chill of danger. If the rat tribe's massive forces were moving toward the royal palace, it could only mean trouble. Rain remarked that their movement looked unusual, and Rhea added that their villages were normally spread all across the forest. Ji-hoon explained that the rat tribe rarely left their own territory, yet now it seemed as though they were converging in one place. Convinced that something abnormal was unfolding, he urged the others to follow. There was something he needed to confirm, and he summoned Rizzledrake to accompany him. Rain hesitated. She struggled with her heavy bag and admitted she could not follow with it. Saddened, she thought to herself that she had become a burden again. Ji-hoon then asked if a solution like this would work. Using magic, he stored Rain's bag away. Rain was amazed and shocked, realizing it was magic. Ji-hoon explained that Rain's bag counted as an item too, though he wondered why it was so big. He told himself he would check the abyss slot specifications later. For now, confirming the identity of this wave came first. He declared for everyone to move, and they all jumped forward together. Meanwhile, news of the rat tribe's advance reached the kingdom. Alarm bells rang as the people panicked. They screamed that war was coming. They shouted that monsters were swarming and evil creatures were on the move. They remembered how long it had been since the last attack and urged each other to move quickly. In the midst of the chaos, Ares led the knights forward. The townspeople cried out that the sun would set soon. They pointed toward the arriving knights and shouted in relief. They praised Sir Ares, begging him to sweep away all the monsters. Among the frightened civilians, a child asked her mother why monsters attacked them. The mother explained they were beings beyond common sense, filled with evil and violence. She said survival meant becoming stronger. A female knight nearby observed the woman's words. Far away, Rizal carried Ji-hoon through the air, while Rhea and Rain followed behind. Rhea soon realized they were heading in the wrong direction. At the same time, Rizal began struggling with Ji-hoon's weight. Ji-hoon apologized, telling him he would lose some weight, and asked him to fly slower. Rizal's strength faltered and his grip loosened. They began to fall, but Ji-hoon protected Rizal, even while hitting the ground himself. He checked if Rizal was fine, but the dragon felt nothing, resting comfortably in Ji-hoon's arms. Ji-hoon remarked that it was fortunate their bodies were sturdy. Still, he realized they had fallen without crossing the mountain next to the kingdom. As he looked around, his eyes widened in shock. Soon, Rhea and Rain ran up to him. Rain addressed him as village chief, while Rhea asked if he was okay, and what had happened. Before them lay a horrifying sight. The rat tribe members were dead, slaughtered in a brutal manner. Ji-hoon examined the bodies. Most of them had wounds from stabbing or being cut by sharp weapons. He stood before piles of corpses once again. Ever since coming to this place, seeing dead creatures did not affect him. It was as if he had always been familiar with such death. Rain spoke uneasily, saying he had definitely heard running sounds until just a moment ago. The direction had not even been this way. He wondered what on earth had happened. They soon found a single survivor. They treated the wounded rat with herbs. The rat thanked them, and they asked who had done this, who had destroyed the rat tribe. The rat opened his eyes, saw Ji-hoon, and cried out in rage. Believing humans were responsible, he attempted to attack Ji-hoon. Rhea stopped him. The rat demanded to know why she stopped him, declaring that humans had done this. But Rhea urged him to look carefully. The rat admitted Ji-hoon looked human, yet he felt like a monster. Rhea reassured him it was okay to relax, because Ji-hoon was different from the humans he imagined. Ji-hoon explained that they had followed the rat tribe moving toward the kingdom, and he asked what had happened there. The rat revealed that humans wearing armor, the kingdom's knights, had suddenly attacked them. A glimpse of the massacre appeared, showing knights butchering the rats mercilessly. The rat explained to Ji-hoon that they had been massacred indiscriminately. The scene shifted again. The remaining rats rallied together, preparing to attack the kingdom. They shouted to their fellow tribe members that 35 villages had already been slaughtered by humans. They demanded to know what wrong they had done, crying that they could not endure it anymore. The human knights prepared themselves, with archers moving forward. Ares insulted the rats, calling them filthy scum, and ordered the attack. The larger rats encouraged the smaller ones, declaring they would take revenge that night for their fallen kin. Back with the survivor, the injured rat revealed to Ji-hoon that the attack had been led by a human knight, with a ring on his lip. Ji-hoon repeated the detail to confirm, and the rat continued. The reason for the massacre was only for a single item, a purple small stone. Ji-hoon realized with shock that it was an S-rank enhancement stone. As night slowly falls over the human kingdom, the sky turns into a deep, foreboding shade of blue. Standing atop the fortress walls, the female knight quietly watches the fading horizon. The sun finally dips below the land, marking the beginning of the long-awaited battle. In the distance, the eyes of the rat army start to glow with a strange purple light, their bodies trembling as they absorb the energy of darkness. The system window flickers, explaining that the transformation increases all of their stats by 30%, but at the cost of their reason and control. From the castle walls, the human commander raises his hand and commands the archers to fire. In a single order, countless arrows take flight, filling the sky like a black storm, before raining down on the monsters below. The sharp arrows pierce through the charging rats, yet the creatures refuse to stop. Consumed by rage and strengthened by their nighttime buff, they keep advancing without fear or pain. The commander quickly orders his men to shift focus toward the massive figure leading the attack. A warrior on the wall raises a gleaming golden sword, its blade glowing with divine energy, and begins chanting a spell. A blazing wall of fire bursts forth, stretching across the battlefield and blocking the horde's advance. But the rat leader glares into the flames, his purple eyes reflecting defiance. He stands unfazed by the heat or the burning light that tries to stop him. Back in the present, the lone survivor finishes recounting his story. His voice trembles as he says that he had used his final bit of strength to halt the humans that day. The memory flashes. He had stood before the knights, battered and weak, begging them to stop the slaughter. He had tried to show courage, even while shaking with fear, but the human knights had only looked at him with cold eyes before walking away, leaving him and his dying kin behind, as if they no longer mattered. He explains that once the humans had taken what they wanted, they no longer saw the rats as worth their time. The hero listens silently, his expression calm but distant. Deep down, he feels there is nothing to hate. To him, this is simply how the world works. He remembers his own school days, how classmates used to surround him pretending to be friendly only because of his father's influence. When they realized they couldn't gain anything from him, they turned away. He recalls how people always measured relationships through benefit and loss, acting innocent while hiding their true motives. The memory of that lonely truth still lingers inside him. He quietly concludes that humans, no matter the world or era, are creatures who always put their own interests first. On the battlefield, the human commander shouts another order. Kill them all. The air fills once again with the sound of bowstrings and whistling arrows. Amid the chaos, a single rat warrior continues to push forward through fire and falling arrows. The soldiers on the wall recognize him, the leader of the rat tribe, the Rat King. The Rat King charges ahead, using the smaller rats as shields as he runs toward the castle gate. Arrows stab into his body one after another, yet he keeps moving, driven by fury and pain. Watching from above, the female knight grips her sword tighter, her expression grim but resolute. Blue energy starts to surge around the Rat King, sparking and growing stronger with every step. He knows this will be his last attack, but he no longer cares. He wants the humans to feel his tribe's suffering, even if it means destroying himself. With a final roar, he gathers all the energy and aims it toward the castle wall. The human commander, Ares, stares in shock as realization strikes him. The soldiers around him panic, shouting that the Rat King is self-destructing and yelling for everyone to fall back. The blue energy flares brighter, seconds away from detonating. With his last breath, the Rat King whispers that his death is for peace, a desperate wish for his fallen kin. At that moment, the female knight draws her sword. A brilliant beam of light bursts from her blade as she activates her ultimate skill, Light Sword Dance. The shining arc of energy collides with the Rat King's explosion, trying to suppress it. The Rat King's eyes twitch in his final moments as he realizes his sacrifice will change nothing. A blinding explosion shakes the entire castle, sending shockwaves through the night sky. Far away, the hero and his group hear the thunderous blast echo in the distance. Rhea confirms that she heard it too. Their young leader explains in a low voice that the Rat King was a boom rat, a suicide variant known for detonating itself as a final attack. The survivor sits in silence, his expression empty and defeated. The battle is over, and his people are gone. The hero quietly reflects that in the game, the sixth wave of boom rats was never a real threat. For an S-ranked knight, defeating them had always been an easy task. Even if one of the rats had successfully self-destructed, the explosion would have only scratched the castle walls, a sacrifice that meant nothing. Yet he wonders if those rats had known they would die, and still chose to fight anyway, just to make the humans feel their pain and determination. He clenches his teeth, realizing how many of the villagers who died were not warriors at all. They were innocent women and children who had never even held a weapon. The young leader remembers what Tar once told him, that the reason there were no strong male beastfolk left in their village was because they had all gone to the human kingdom. Those men had sworn revenge, but none of them ever came back, leaving behind only grief and broken families. For the first time, he truly understands that the monster attacks were never just senseless violence. They were the result of human greed. He recalls a faint memory of the king smiling and telling him not to worry, that he only needed to obey and everything would be fine. The hero tightens his fist at the thought, realizing that if he had accepted the king's words, he would have become part of the same corrupt system that caused all this suffering. Letting out a slow breath, he feels slightly lighter inside. His decision to walk a different path, even if it means standing against humanity, no longer feels wrong. He reminds himself that he is still human, and just like all humans, he moves according to his own benefit. His new faction may seek the destruction of the human side, but his real purpose is far more personal. He wants to protect the people he cares about. Turning toward his companions, he admits something he has never said before. He tells them that the real reason he wants to find the lizard tribe is not just for survival. He wants to unite them, to grow their strength and stand together for a greater cause. He reveals that the so-called monster waves are not random invasions, but desperate reactions to endless human massacres. He says that if they do nothing, this bloodshed will only end when every monster on the continent is wiped out. His voice hardens with resolve as he declares a new goal. He will bring down the entire human kingdom before that can happen. Determination fills his eyes as he accepts the role he must play in the coming war. He looks around at his companions and tells them that to achieve this dream, he will need their strength. Around them, the camera of the world seems to widen, showing the scorched fields, broken ruins, and silent night sky, reminders of the price already paid. He explains that he knows this is not an easy path, but destroying the human faction is the only way for them to survive. Rhea steps forward and says softly that she has always felt his hatred for humans. It burns just like their own. She remembers their fight with the bandit boss, and how even when he was badly injured, he refused to give up. The fox girl nods and adds that a small village will never be enough. If they truly wish to take down the human kingdom, they must gather more allies. Powerful tribes like the lizard clan. Rain then speaks, her voice trembling with emotion. She says everyone in Warren had lost their families to human soldiers. She recalls the chaos, the flames, and the screams, the moment she saw her friends fall one after another. A flashback passes through her mind. A rabbit beast folk desperately holding a wounded friend as the village burned around them. Looking at the dead rat creature nearby, Rain admits that they had been powerless to resist the humans. But then she glances at the hero and says that he was the one who led them to victory against the bandits and protected their home when no one else could. Rhea steps closer, her gaze steady and full of conviction. She says that if destroying the kingdom is what it takes to restore peace, then she will follow him without hesitation. The hero is taken aback by her faith, quietly whispering her name in surprise. At that moment, Rain lifts her hand high, her eyes bright and voice strong as she declares her support too. She says she wants to help even if her strength isn't much. Her smile trembles, but her spirit burns bright. She explains that her parents had died trying to protect her and her brother from human soldiers, and that her brother too had recently passed away. Tears threaten to fall as she clenches her fists, admitting she used to believe her race was too weak to change anything. But then she recalls the moment the hero stood up to the bandit leader, how he refused to bow down. Seeing him fight had sparked something inside her, a forgotten hope. She laughs softly, saying she might not be strong, but she will still try her best to stand beside him. The hero thanks her gently, his voice low but sincere, and Rain's eyes brighten with pure gratitude. In his heart, he realizes that even though each of them carries different pain, their goal is the same, and that is all that truly matters. He turns to his companions, declaring that together they will end the endless cycle of human slaughter and monster revenge. Rhea's determined gaze meets his, her expression calm and resolute, ready to walk with him down this path. With newfound conviction, the hero announces their ultimate purpose, to break the chain of hatred that binds this world and restore a peace that belongs to everyone. Moved by his resolve, one of the rat monsters stepped forward and declared its wish to join them. The group's attention shifted to the wounded rats lying nearby, their bodies covered in cuts and blood. Among them, a gravely injured rat managed to gather its strength to speak with Ji-hoon. Watching their condition, Ji-hoon thought to himself that, afterward, the survivors of the rat tribe had gathered, one by one. He would later learn that they had been cautious of his group and had secretly listened to the entire conversation before choosing to appear. Another rat, larger than the rest, struggled to its feet despite its injuries and expressed its desire to follow Ji-hoon as well. Seeing the creature stand, Ji-hoon felt a moment of surprise. The rat was enormous, much larger than the others. Rio immediately began tending to the wounded, wrapping bandages and applying medicine to their injuries. Nearby, Rain accidentally touched something on her hand that startled her, and she nervously called out for Rio. Observing the scene, Ji-hoon realized that what he saw before him was more than compassion, it was instinct. He thought to himself that this must be their form of survival instinct. They treated the survivors carefully and cremated the bodies of the fallen. As the flames rose, the surviving rat monsters stood silently, watching the burning remains of their comrades. The air was heavy with both grief and determination. Ji-hoon's thoughts echoed through the solemn atmosphere. It had been barely 2 weeks since they had arrived. The kingdom had already repelled the sixth wave, the rat tribe, but time was not infinite. They needed to act swiftly, gathering allies before the kingdom grew stronger. The next step was clear. They had to find the lizard folk. The next morning, Ji-hoon approached one of the larger rat monsters and handed over a folded piece of paper. He instructed it to head to the cave marked on the map and locate Toro. The rat accepted the paper with resolve, acknowledging Ji-hoon's command with a firm reply. After that, Ji-hoon, Rhea, and Rain began their departure. The rat monsters watched quietly as the trio walked away. Rain, following beside Ji-hoon, called out with determination, expressing her eagerness to find the lizard folk. Once they were gone, the rat monster looked at the map in its hand, confusion spreading across its face. At that very moment, a system window appeared before Ji-hoon. The text displayed read, Main Quest 3, Monster Faction Expansion. Gather nearby monsters to expand your faction. 82/1000. Reward, Random Gradestone. Suddenly, the numbers on the screen shifted, increasing from 82 to 149. As the trio continued their journey, they reached a riverside, where Rhea knelt down to observe the smooth stones scattered along the water's edge. Rain joined her, playfully tossing pebbles into the stream. Ji-hoon, watching the two of them, thought back to the rat tribe, and reflected inwardly that, after parting ways with them, they were now heading toward the swamp said to be home to the lizard folk. Nearby, Rhea and Rain splashed in the river, enjoying a rare moment of calm. Ji-hoon, noticing their laughter, suggested to Rizal that perhaps they too should join in. Rizal agreed, and Ji-hoon stepped into the water as well. However, his lack of swimming skills quickly became apparent as he began to sink beneath the surface. Seeing him struggle, Rhea and Rain panicked and rushed to pull him out. Together, they dragged Ji-hoon to the shore, pressing his stomach to force the water from his lungs. Ji-hoon, gasping, thought to himself that veering off course had made their journey more difficult, yet there were still gains along the way. Their travel continued, and by the time they reached a nearby cave, the sun had begun to set. Rain spotted some mushrooms near the entrance and eagerly began collecting them. From within the cave, a goblin emerged, startling the group. Ji-hoon studied the goblin carefully, momentarily uncertain. He handed the goblin a copy of the same map, though the creature appeared just as confused as the rat monster before. As Ji-hoon did so, another system window appeared, showing that he had gained 40 additional points, raising his total to 189 out of 1000. Soon after, Ji-hoon gave another copy of the map to a different monster, earning another 12 points. His total rose to 201 out of 1000. The journey pressed on, and from atop a mountain ridge, the trio caught sight of several slimes traveling together in the distance. Ji-hoon recognized them immediately. They were from the 7th wave, the King Slime's army. Rhea mentioned that their path led straight toward the kingdom. Without hesitation, Ji-hoon moved to block their way, attempting to stop them from advancing. He warned them that going forward would bring only destruction. The King Slime ignored him at first, attempting to pass by, but Ji-hoon's urgent words made it halt. Meanwhile, Rhea and Rain explored the surrounding area, collecting strange, glowing objects scattered among the rocks. Ji-hoon extended the map toward the King Slime, explaining its purpose. In his thoughts, Ji-hoon realized that the slimes had once lived peacefully in a cave near the river, but human expansion had driven them out. They were now migrating in search of a new home, unaware that their current path would lead them straight into danger near the kingdom. Pointing to the map, Ji-hoon showed them another direction, a massive cave that could serve as their new refuge. After a long discussion, the slimes were finally persuaded. The system window appeared again, showing a massive gain of 793 points. Ji-hoon's total rose sharply to 994 out of 1000. As night fell, exhaustion began to take its toll. Ji-hoon staggered and muttered that he could no longer continue walking. Rhea, equally weary, agreed. Rain, however, pointed toward something in the distance, urging them to look. Before their eyes stood two towering mountain peaks, with the warm glow of sunset passing between them. Ji-hoon realized that this must be the region where the lizard folk lived. Rhea confirmed that they were almost there. Just then, Ji-hoon's stomach growled loudly, and he decided it was best to rest and eat. He mentioned that he hadn't eaten anything the entire day. Near him lay a large travel bag. Rain's eyes sparkled as she spotted it, thinking to herself that this was her chance to be useful. Excited, she rushed to open the bag, her mind filled with the thought of the supplies inside, fresh, brought directly from Warren. Rhea reached into her bag and pulled out a carrot. The sight of it made Ji-hoon's face twist with displeasure. He had eaten enough of them and didn't want another bite. Rhea insisted that carrots were highly nutritious, but Ji-hoon clearly had no enthusiasm left for them. Watching this, Rain seemed unimpressed as well. Ji-hoon reluctantly held the carrot in his hand, his frustration growing as he thought aloud that he was truly sick of eating them and wondered if there was nothing but carrots in the entire forest. Rain quietly observed the two for a moment, then searched through her own bag and pulled something out. She handed it to Ji-hoon. When he looked closer, surprise flickered across his face. They were wild berries.